A significant part of my planning was on how to get to the trailhead. This is so important because if you don't get it right, you might not get the hike. It took a lot of research for me to figure out how to get to the trailhead and to navigate all the restrictions. Reservations, parking, buses, timing, shuttle. To help you, I created another video where I share options to get to the trailhead and what the trade-offs are between them. Check it out in the link at the top of this video. Even though the 4-pass loop is well maintained and easy to follow, one of the best things I did was change the background of my phone to an image that showed all the turns, mileage, elevation changes, and trail numbers, so I could look at it without unlocking my phone. I got this great idea off Facebook from other hikers, John Ingleheimer and Jordan Chappell. This was so beneficial to me. On the 8 o'clock shuttle were lots of other hikers, some just going to Maroon Bells, most going to Crater Lake, and a few doing the loop. After being dropped off by the shuttle at the Maroon Bells, a beautiful spot, there's a 2-mile hike to get to the loop. This 2-mile trek is very rocky. Soon after starting, there's a self-registration box. Registration is simple and free, but this area gets a little backed up after a bus unloads. All that's required is to fill out a form with basic information and where you plan on camping. Just after registration, the trail splits for those going clockwise towards the West Maroon and those going counterclockwise towards Buckskin. I went counterclockwise when the trail split. I was the only one going counterclockwise, so I continued alone. There's a lot of conversation about whether you should go counterclockwise or clockwise, and to be honest, it's beautiful both directions. I've only been counterclockwise, but you see the same things either way you go. I chose counterclockwise because I wanted to get Buckskin out of the way. Buckskin is the largest climb. Going counterclockwise, it'll be your first climb of the trip. The second most difficult climb was probably West Maroon, and that's because it's so steep. It isn't very long, but it's very steep. And then the most difficult down is Trail Rider. In fact, I would say it was the most difficult part of the entire trip. I just struggled. Going down is so steep, my knees hurt and my legs were shaking when I finally got to the bottom. But it has some unique scenery through that section, so it's kind of cool, especially coming down into Forever Basin. There are 3 great resources I want to share with you. The first being All Trails. All Trails is super helpful both in planning and then on the day of your hike. So for planning, it gives you an idea of the map, the elevation, it has reviews from other hikers, it has weather, photos, and the great thing about it when you use it on trail is it lets you know when you get off trail. And you don't have to have a cell signal for it to work. It works off GPS. And it's super helpful. I've used it on other trips and it's helped me keep on the trail. With the 4-pass loop, it's pretty obvious where you need to go, but there are a couple times I wasn't quite sure should I take this turn or not, and the app was very helpful in letting me know when to take the turn. The next suggestion is the Aspen Trail Finder map, and I love this map. It's unique in the way it's drawn, and it shows a lot more of the landmarks that aren't typically shown on other maps. And the other thing it provides is a difficulty rating every few miles, and those are indicated by the colored squares on the map. And lastly, the USDA puts out a campsite map, and this is extremely useful. I was very concerned about finding campsites, and I used this map kind of to pre-plan, and then I'm worried, oh, is it going to be available when I get there? But the thing about the way the campsites are laid out at 4-pass loop is if there's one campsite, there's quite a few campsites clustered around it. So even if the specific one that you wanted isn't available, there are a lot more there. As an example, at Snowmass Lake, they had probably, I don't know, a few listed on that map, but there's 40 or 50 campsites at Snowmass Lake. So you won't have a problem finding them. My suggestion is just look at the USDA map before you go, kind of plan where you want to camp. And then when you get there, if you see somebody camping, there's most likely another campsite close by. So that's my suggestion on campsites. Don't stress out about it, but do a little pre-planning on where you want to camp. I was very lucky with weather. All 3 days were beautiful. It didn't rain once. And the second day was completely sunny the entire day. In fact, I was struggling between wearing a hooded sun shirt and wearing a short sleeve shirt. It was very warm with the exertion put out, but it was also sunny, and I got a little bit of sunburn on the second day, and so I was trading off between wearing the sun shirt and not wearing the sun shirt. I eventually just wrapped it around my neck because that's really where my sunburn was happening. So, but for weather, it's really important to check out what the weather's going to be like when you're there. I actually did it several days in advance, and then every day I looked at it again to be sure I was bringing the right clothes. One thing you got to consider is where you're going to sleep. This map that I'm going to show you, I think it's awesome. It's mountainweather.com. I'll put the link in the notes, but it gives you 3 different elevations. You can look at when you're up in the peak, what the temperature is going to be, and then when you're staying in the valleys or the lower parts where you're actually camping, what the temperature is going to be at night. So I think it's fabulous, and I used it to plan. For my trip, it was low 60s, upper 50s during the day, and then in the 40s overnight. And I did really fine with just long sleeve shirt and pants and a 30-degree bag. I wasn't cold at all. I only wore my long sleeve hooded sun shirt in the mornings, and then whenever the sun kind of was beating down on me, just to cover up from the sun, not because I needed it for warmth. I hope those tips were helpful to you. I'll put links in the notes to all the sites I referenced, so hopefully that will be helpful. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer anything that I can, or point you in the direction of somewhere you can get an answer. If you have tips for people that I didn't cover, feel free to add them in the comments as well.